All right, guys. So today I want to go over this latest article from TCG Player talking about the biggest price spikes in Pokemon this week. This is just from a couple days ago on January 14th. And this one is really exciting because as they start to talk about a little bit here, for the second time in 2026 and second time in a long time, the movers and shakers this week are filled with more cards moving up in price than moving down. The Pokemon trading card, hobby and kind of ecosystem and market right now is starting to pick back up. I know the end of 2025 wasn't necessarily the best, but now we've seen some bottoms. Things are moving back up. That doesn't mean we're going straight back up to all-time highs. That doesn't mean we're going to the moon, but it does mean, some people that were worried about us just kind of crashing down and down and down, it's not necessarily the case, and some things are actually rebounding quite well. So getting into some of the cards that have had the biggest moves in the past week, a card that kind of keeps coming up, and I think it's going to keep coming up on the upside and the downside. This is just going to be a super volatile, controversial, all over the place card right now, and it's going to keep moving in big dollar amounts. This is the Mega Charizard XEX, the special illustration rare from Phantasmal Flames. Obviously a great card, a very cool card. Not only do you have a really sick, Mega Charizard X, you got Charmeleon, you got Charmander, you got the red and the blue contrasting together. It's a beautiful card, and it's very, very expensive. It's, sitting at $531 right now, and it's expensive for a reason. People really, really love it, but obviously Phantasmal Flames is still a new set. This is still a set that we see product, popping up in retail stores, and some people, saying that it's getting actually easier and easier to find. Some of those, ultra premium collections and stuff like that are still out there. Plenty. There's packs out there. There's ETBs out there that you can get your hands on relatively easy. So there's still a lot of product being created and a lot of product out there for Phantasmal Flames still, which obviously for the, individual cards means that there's still going to be a lot of cards getting pulled, a lot of cards hitting the market, a lot of new PSA 10s, a lot of new raw cards that are in pretty good condition, all this stuff. So that's why we're going to see this thing be really, really volatile. But what we have seen over the past couple of months is this thing hit a, kind of bottom around $425, and since then it's rebounded up to $531. So that's why in this article they're talking about how hot it is. But again, am I necessarily going to be buying this card at $530? Like, no, not yet. I'm going to be patient. I don't think the time to be buying individual cards, especially, even really, really beautiful cards, even great cards, even cards of, Charizard and an amazing Charizard cards, and one of the best Charizard cards we've seen in a while, I still don't think the time to buy it is while this product is still actively, out there so much. I think it's very, very possible we could go lower. Now, maybe we won't. I don't know. And obviously the market's on fire right now, and people who bought at $425, they're doing quite well. But hey, people that bought at $850 or $700 or $600 or whatever, they maybe should have waited a little bit longer. So to me, it's not time to go out and buy this just yet. But it is kind of cool to see, how volatile it's been. And I'm sure there's plenty of volatility left in the future. Now, another very, very cool and iconic Charizard card. This is going to be the Charizard SIR. The Charizard EX SIR from 151. And again, 151, another very, very amazing set, but another set that there is still some product out there of it. And, it's getting a little bit older and it's getting a little bit less common and all that stuff. It's not like 151 is in the same position as, Phantasmal Flames or anything like that just yet. So for that reason, this card instantly becomes a little bit more attractive to me. And also, again, another just beautiful card. I love this landscape. I love that you can see the sun and the clouds with the Charizard going on. Like this to me is like a work of art. This is like a very, very beautiful card. And throughout 2025, we actually saw this card bottom out at around $180, $185, somewhere in there. And again, now we're back up to $264. We take a look at the last month. This thing was as low as $250, now back up to $264. So this one hasn't been as, insanely volatile lately or anything like that. But again, from the 2025 lows to where we're at right now, this thing has rebounded very, very nicely. 151, I think, is a set that I definitely want to get my hands on a lot of the product for. I want to have a lot of sealed product. I actually just recently picked up, I've showed this a couple times, the 151 booster bundle. I want to get some more of these. I want to get, some 151 ETB, stuff like that. 151 is obviously a very, very great iconic set with a ton of awesome cards. One of them being this Charizard EX. And this one, the graph looks a little bit more attractive to me here where, it's been pretty stable throughout the past year. Yeah, up to 260, down to 180, up to 260 again, but that's not that, massive of a range or anything like that. So I think this card could maybe, start to be at a point where it has a bright future ahead of it. Obviously a lot of 151 product was created. A lot of 151 product is out there, not, low populations or anything like that by any means, but still a very, very good card at not a ridiculous price. $250 is not like absolutely insane or anything like that. Then getting into this Blastoise from Crystal Guardians. This is a very, very crazy card. I don't actually even think I've seen this card before, but I like it. This is, the definition of a big man Blastoise right here for sure. And if you look at the course of this year from this card, and there's tons of older cards going absolutely crazy right now. And what they say here is, this Crystal Guardians card qualifies as ancient, released in 2006. It is 2026. We're talking about a 20-year-old set, a 20-year-old card here. Absolutely insane. The Blastoise Delta species here. And at the beginning of the year, $53 at the beginning of 2025. Now looking at $125 there on the holo. So that's pretty crazy. And obviously we are seeing a lot of older stuff, a lot of vintage stuff, whatever, starting to pick up a little bit. And some of those prices are going up. So I'm not necessarily saying that, this Blastoise is the best purchase in the world right now, or saying it's a bad purchase. I don't really know enough about it or the market for it or anything like that, so I'm not going to pretend to. But what I would say is I'm not surprised that this is going up, and I've seen a ton of other, cards from this age range and even older start going up, and the whole Pokemon market's been looking pretty good so far in 2026. But what I would challenge you is, hey, maybe this Blastoise has already seen this crazy run up, and you can see, even at the end of December, it was only $94, and it's up to $125 just within the past month. That's the reason it's on this list. That's the price spike we're talking about. But is there other cards out there maybe similar to this, Delta species Blastoise? Is there other cards from Crystal Guardian? Is there other cards from sets around that time that haven't seen this little spike up yet, that might be undervalued, that might be underappreciated, that might be, flying under the radar a little bit? And could they be next? That is usually the challenge. Once stuff has had its little moment, its little price spike, it could continue to go crazier. Maybe that's a time to get in, but maybe that's a time to figure out why, or some cards with similarities to this one that could be next to have the little run. So again, if you've had cards like this, you're doing quite well. This is awesome, but maybe, there's some other Crystal Guardian cards or cards from this time period that are about to go crazy next. Next is going to be the Mimikyu GX, the secret rare from Lost Thunder. There's been a ton of cards like this on these lists. These rainbow rare cards have been going very, very crazy lately. We're obviously we're getting into the Mega Evolutions era now. These older eras, they're kind of getting pushed to the wayside. And in terms of value, that's a good thing. They're getting older. They're getting more rare. They're getting more iconic. Like, again, it's 2026. It's crazy. Some of this stuff is, 5, 10, whatever years old at this point. And this card has, just like a lot of other secret rares and cards from, this time period and stuff, have been insane over the past year. I'm talking about $70 at the beginning of the year, now $186. And again, it's not a total shock to me. Buying stuff that is, attractive, good looking, only getting more rare, only getting more old, only, gonna age well with time. Like, you want to buy good stuff and give it time to appreciate. So, at the beginning, the volatility, we're looking at the Charizard from Phantasmal Flames. At the beginning, it's going to be super volatile. It's going to be up and down and up and down and up and down, whatever. But then as you zoom out, in the 3 months or the 6 months or whatever that card's been out, it's all over the place. But now if we get 5 years from now, we get a 5-year graph of it, that volatility at the beginning is going to look crazy, but eventually you're going to start to hit that, the upward sloping graph that cards like this Mimikyu GX are finding. And again, we're seeing that a lot of cards from this time period are performing really well. Now, obviously, you're not always going to be able to double or triple your money in the course of a year or whatever, but we are going to start on that, this is a very, very nice sloping graph, a very smooth curve where the price just kind of is continuing to go up over time. So if you are somebody that likes Mimikyu, if you're somebody that appreciates this card, or like I said too, you can always look at similar cards from this set, or maybe look at something that's a little bit undervalued or whatever. But I think, cards like this are just going to continue to do consistently well going forward in the future, especially good cards, rare cards with the good Pokemon. Mimikyu is obviously a very iconic one. Your Gengars, your Mews, your Mewtwo's, your Mimikyus, your Charizards. Like, if your money's in the right place, and if you're investing in cool stuff that it has genuine demand and is going to have genuine demand going forward in the future, you're going to get the graphs like this where you're doubling and tripling your money. Not always in a year, but over time, I think you're going to continue to do quite well. And then, speaking of that, again, we have another big name. This is kind of the common theme again. Big name Pokemon, great looking cards that stand out, cards that pop, cards that catch your attention. Every card on this list, you look at it and you're like, yeah, that's a cool card. Like, maybe it's not my personal favorite, or maybe it's not my style or whatever, but I can get why it's somebody else's style, or why somebody else wants it, or why somebody else would want it in their collection or on their shelf or in their binder or whatever. And this is the Mewtwo Black Star promo. Very, very cool card. Again, I'm a big fan of Mewtwo. Mewtwo is one of my personal favorites. Absolutely love it. And in the past 3 months, we've seen this thing go from $44 up to $70. And again, over the past year, again, a year ago, this thing was $22. Now we're talking about $72. This just shows that the Pokemon market has been absolutely on fire. And we have so many time periods, so many eras, so many sets, so many cards. It's hard to be looking everywhere at once. You know, you're looking over here and then something tripled over here and then something tripled. So a set from 10 years ago just doubled, and then a set from 17 years ago just tripled and whatever. Like, that's why you really need to have your focus. You need to figure out your thing. You know, am I going to be a single card investor, a wax investor, a graded card investor? What time period? Am I going to be ultra modern? Am I going to be, ultra vintage? Am I going to be the middle ground? Am I going to be this specific set? Am I going to be this Pokemon? And then you really need to start honing in on specific cards that might be undervalued, or specific cards that might be on a run next, or specific cards you want to load up on, because this whole thing can be really, really overwhelming, really, really complicated. Would I have ever been able to tell you that the Mewtwo Black Star promo level X was a card that's tripled in value over the past year? Like, no, not necessarily, but you can still have takeaways and conclusions and stuff from this. Again, another cool card. It's popping. It's a Mewtwo. It's a card that I get why people would want to have, and it's doing quite well right now. So that's pretty cool to see as well. But that is pretty much it for this video today, guys. Again, a list of some of the Pokemon cards that are really, really hot in the market right now, giving you some investing and collecting ideas, and maybe we can notice some trends and patterns and stuff, and use this to be able to level up our Pokemon investing game going forward in the future. Pretty much it. Hopefully catch you guys in the next one. Until then, peace.